The American Association of Christian Counselors and Light University welcome you to a professional program in Christian life coaching. AACC wishes you special blessings as you begin this incredible study.
Coaching is about results. Let me say it again. Coaching is about results. In this training session, I'm going to be teaching you the business basics that you'll need to be successful as a coach. It seems like that we talk about coaching, but how do you really succeed as a business? I'm going to share with you some principles. So you're going to want to keep your legal pad handy. I'm going to share with you some of the key tools that you'll need. We're going to be building literally a coaching toolbox. My father's a mechanic. He didn't finish 10th grade, but he's the best mechanic that I've ever met. Many people have said that throughout my lifetime. Man, your dad is a great mechanic. So I carry on my father's tradition of helping people fix things and build things. But my daddy taught me this. You can't be a great mechanic if you don't have a great toolbox. So we're building a toolbox of business basics. Literally, it will be like these blocks. I'm going to give you some foundational principles so that we can put them together. You've already come pretty far in your journey as a life coach. But to be successful, you have to understand business. So I'm going to be giving you these foundational principles so that we can put them together and that literally you can climb step by step by step to the next level of success. To be able to do that, we have to, as I said, study and grow. We've got a lot of material to cover, so let's dig in. What exactly is a life coach? That's a basic principle. And you say, well, I already know what a life coach is. I see life coaching just like this little compass that you can pin onto your clothing if you're out hiking in the Pacific Northwest. No matter which direction this thing spins, it'll always go back to north. And that's really what a life coach does. We help people find their direction, but in a number of different ways. Let me share with you some definitions. The first principle in terms of what is a life coach is to understand that people hire life coaches to help them improve their quality of life. They're looking for direction. But it's different for every person. Let me share with you different ways that people hire coaches. They hire them to help them in areas like music, money management, public speaking, parenting, leadership, media communications, discovering and developing passions, finding their life purpose, learning to manage change effectively, building communication skills, and also communication skills on the internet through communication vehicles like YouTube or GodTube. Appraising and building performance, what we call performance coaches, getting unstuck, getting out of a rut. I've heard one person who said that a rut is like a grave with the ends kicked out. You just are kind of, it's Groundhog's Day in your life. If you remember the movie from many years ago, you're just stuck and you're not moving forward. Your life doesn't have any direction. Other ways to build better teams. I work in corporate America a great deal, and many times my coaching is to help build a stronger team in a business, particularly in a small business setting. Learning to take responsibility, learning to be accountable. Accountability, we know, is a huge part. If you remember the training session on ethics, we talked so much about accountability, so much about trust. That's part of what a life coach does, developing a closer walk with God. All of these are different ways, and there are literally dozens and dozens of things that I have listed. But it comes down to this, that basic principle that we started with. Coaching is about results. If you get results in someone's life, if you're the guide who comes alongside to make a positive difference, you will see that your phone rings off the hook. Speaking of phones, remember, a lot of coaching is done through a technical means, through a telephone, or perhaps through email. But remember, no matter which communication method you use, coaching is about results. Second principle. How did coaching explode onto the mainstream? When you think about coaching, we're talking about something that is worldwide. How did it happen? How did it happen so fast? Well, there are a number of different factors. For me, it happened in the corporate world. And I think for many people, about 30 years ago, we saw that particularly, if I can find New York City on this globe, particularly it started in the corporate centers of New York, Washington, D.C., in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. Individuals started through the corporate world, through major corporations. They would have a life coach who would come alongside. Other places, the media attention that has come, particularly through Oprah or Dr. Phil. We know that life coaching literally is a worldwide phenomenon, but let's make it personal for you in your own business. I'm going to give you 4 different places that you might be right now in your coaching journey. I'm going to start from the bottom and then we'll work our way up. For some people, when they start to think about what I call midlife career transition, that's something I teach a great deal. For some people, they just start with something that's a hobby. They enjoy it. A hobby is actually a lot of fun. It doesn't really cost a lot of money. There's a little bit of money usually for a hobby, but it doesn't cost a lot and you don't get paid to do it. You're doing it for fun. You're doing it for recreation. And listen to the word, recreate. The first thing we know about God's character is that God created. In the beginning, God created. So when we truly recreate, a lot different than amusement, we're recreating energy. For some people, that's outdoors, hiking, biking, jogging. For some individuals, that hobby might be crafting. They might crop till you drop with scrapbooks. But when we talk about the area of coaching, for many people, their journey as a coach started to flow out of their hobby, and then it goes to the next level, and that next level is avocation. Now that means that it's not something that they're actually getting paid to do all the time, but they might get paid a little bit. An avocation, the definition that I give, is that it's a very close fit to your career path, but it flows out of your own life experience, out of your own life story, out of your own journey. With an avocation, it's highly unlikely you'll get paid a lot, if anything, but here's a key word I want you to pay attention to, and it's experience. You're gaining a wealth of experience. That's why I believe so strongly in volunteering. If you have a hobby that you really enjoy and there's a club, a professional association, an organization, start to volunteer, start to give time, because that's going to give you that valuable experience that will carry you from just a hobby into an avocation. It will position you to move forward in your career no matter what field of coaching you might be going into. The next area that I list is job. Now all of us know that job is an acrostic. J-O-B, it stands for just over broke. The research tells us that about 82% of the people in this country go to a job they really don't like. They do it, but they don't really find it passionate. They're not excited about it. And so for a job, that's what helps, because the rent comes due at the first of the month. Now there's a different, and the top level that I want you to see is a career, maybe what some people would call a calling. When you're in your career, and a career you can't just find overnight, it's work, and that's part of what many times a coach's job is to help someone find their career fit. I'm going to share with you a coaching exercise in a few minutes that will teach you how to find your core, how to find your passion. But as you get to 4 levels, it flows out of a hobby, then it goes into an avocation where you're gaining that very powerful and very important and necessary word, experience. And then it goes into a job, you start to get paid for it, and maybe you're not getting paid very much, but you're starting to gain more credible skills. Literally, you're building your resume, and then that flows into the place of a career. So when I think about the idea of how did it explode into mainstream, it's because for many individuals, for authors, for speakers, for writers, for communicators around the world, they went through that logical progression, and I believe that you can too. Next principle, what are the primary differences between counseling, coaching, and consulting? What are the primary differences between counseling, coaching, and consulting? Well, let's talk about counseling first. Counseling's a big Band-Aid, right? Counseling helps individuals to be able to deal with pain. Let me give it to you in a formula. The way I see it, when I think about counseling, coaching, and consulting, those 3, and let's follow a logical progression. Counseling deals with the past, and as you saw with the Band-Aid, and I don't mean to minimize that. I'm a nationally certified counselor. I'm licensed in my state. I've given 25 years of my life to the field of professional counseling, so I don't minimize that at all, but it's completely different than coaching, completely different than consulting, completely different than mentoring or discipleship. Counseling is looking at the past. It's dealing with problems. It's dealing with pain. Coaching is very different. Coaching is dealing with the present. Coaching is helping an individual to reach their potential. Coaching is about results. You'll hear me say it many times. Coaching is positive. It's moving forward. Many times with counseling, we're looking back at painful things from the past to heal those, to resolve those. There's a principle that I teach that God reveals things so He can heal them, so He can restore us to a place of wellness and strength. So when I think about the differences between the two, we said that coaching is very present-based, and it's very future in terms of looking forward. I start here today, but I'm moving forward to reach potential. Now, I threw in another word for you, and that word is consultant. Many times people say, well, what's the difference between a coach? Dwight, you work with a lot of corporations. You work with small business owners, with entrepreneurs. What's the difference between a coach and a consultant? And to me, the difference is based on size. Usually, coaching is one-on-one, or it's a very, very small group. It might be a team. Consultants work with entire organizations. Consultants are brought in to solve problems that typically are affecting profitability or productivity. And I've done that. But a consultant is working with the entire organization. Sometimes that can be quite large. Coaches are usually working one-on-one, or they're working in a small team setting. So when you think about the difference between these, and remember, when I think about a mentor, and some of my mentors have been great. Some of my mentors, people like John Maxwell or Steve Brown, have had tremendous influence in my life. Elmer Towns, the co-founder of Liberty University. There are different people that God has brought along my journey. Pat Williams is a writer. My goodness. Joe Cristiano, who helped me understand media and marketing. I have mentors in my life, and some of them are dear friends now. You have mentors in your life, but when we think about the differences between counseling, coaching, and consulting, be clear. Our focus on this series is about guiding you as a coach and to be a successful one from a business perspective. Next principle. Why is it important? Why is it important for you to be aware of the changes in coaching, the explosion in coaching, the growth of coaching? Well, why is it important? A couple of reasons. If you're a counselor like me, here's why it's important. This is from a magazine called Psychotherapy Networker, the September-October 2006 issue. Their research said that senior therapists, these are the highly skilled licensed clinical professionals, seasoned therapists reported a whopping 22% decline in overall income since the year 2000 once you factor inflation into the mix. So why is it important? If you're a professional counselor, it's important because income rates have been going down. If you go to places like payscale.com, salary.com, you'll find that the average pay for a master's level therapist in the United States, I checked it just before we taped this series, is not $14 an hour. It's $13.80 an hour. That's what a master's level therapist makes on the average in the United States. Now you may be watching this in a different culture and you say, well, I'm not a professional counselor, so why does it matter? Well, it matters. Here's another article. This is from entrepreneur.com, and it shows that everybody wants to start a small business. It is one of the hottest things now for individuals to say, I want to start a business, maybe start out of my home, start in a small setting, but I want something on the side. What we talked about earlier, that avocational model, that idea of I want something more in my life. I don't just want a day job that I go to pay the rent, to make enough money to keep a roof over my head, to have a place to sleep, so that I can wake up tomorrow and go back to a job that I don't really like so I can make enough money to pay the rent. That cycle, that literally that rat race that people are on, after a while they start to feel like they're getting run over by the rats. So another important reason is because everybody wants to have something that they can rely on. Maybe they don't have a retirement plan. Maybe they're in the type of job they don't feel like that there's a future. This one was interesting. This is from CNN Money. The worst college degree to have in terms of finances. The worst college degree to have is in psychology. USA Today reported this. Forbes reported this, as well as CNN. So when you think about why is it important, if you've been in the field of counseling and you figured out, you know what, counselors don't make a lot of money. Teachers don't make a lot of money. Firefighters don't make a lot of money. Police officers don't make a lot of money. But don't let me build everything just on finances. All of those are extremely important jobs. It's just that they don't make a lot of money. So when we think about why would you be interested in life coaching, for some people it's going to be supplemental income. And we'll talk about portfolio working in just a few minutes. When I think about this idea, it reminds me of something that my friend Ken Davis taught me many, many years ago. Why would you want to think about being a life coach? You see this? You know what this is? This is a fairy princess wand. Now I realize I don't look much like a fairy princess, but you know, think about it. Is there a success fairy? Don't some people live like that? Now, I love the Disney company, and Disney's been one of my clients for many, many years. But there's no success fairy. I love those movies. I love happy endings. But if you think that one day somebody's just going to show up and just pop you right on the head, and all of a sudden all your dreams are going to come true, you've been watching too many movies. In real life, why would you want to become a life coach? Why would you want to be skilled? Why would you want to learn how to do this from a business perspective? Because there's no success fairy. There's not someone that's going to come along and magically make everything happen for you. Interesting statistic from the National Speakers Association. Over 80% of NSA members, that's the top 3,000 speakers in the world, Over 80% who appeared on the Oprah Winfrey television show with a book, over 80% did not report a huge increase in the sales of their book. Some people think that being on the Oprah program is the holy grail. And nothing against Miss O, she offers a lot of value in our culture. But there's no success for her. There's no one thing you can do, but there are dozens of things you can do. We talk about building basics, and those are the things that I'm going to teach you and the things to share with you. So think about your life. And think about your career. Has it been like a merry-go-round that's gone around in circles, and that your job today, your career today is the same as it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Or is your life like this? It's gone up, it's gone down, it's gone every which way but loose. And your career, you've tried 10 different things in 10 different years. Or does your life show a series of steady steps, a series of steps of greater success, greater success? Individuals who've reached higher levels of success are almost always individuals who've allowed a coach to come alongside. Case in point, Tiger Woods, the great PGA golfer. Tiger Woods has a golf coach. Most professional athletes in individual sports have a coach to help them, somebody who comes alongside to help them achieve greater results, because coaching is about results. Next principle, when we think about this, why would you want to change? Well, basically there's two reasons. One, you made a choice. You reached a place to say, I need to get moving forward in my life. It's time for me to really dig in. It's time for me to take this from an idea of life coaching into a career of life coaching. The second reason would be crisis. I hope that one doesn't happen to you. But for many people, they reach a point of crisis in their life because they got downsized. And let me just personalize this part to those that are maybe age 50 and older. The AARP generation, all right, the baby boomers like me, who are at a certain place in life. If you aren't changing, if you aren't growing, if you are not improving in your skills, if you don't have the next big thing lined up, I want you to know life can and will pass you by. It's kind of like surfing. I was speaking on the West Coast once and was watching these kids out surfing. And surfers have to know how to catch the wave just right. They get on their board, they're waiting, they're watching, and then you know what they start doing? They start paddling like crazy when they see the next big thing coming, when they see the next big wave coming. They're paddling, they've got some forward momentum, because momentum is your friend if you're a surfer. That momentum carries them, the wave picks them up, and they have an incredible ride. What happens if you don't have some momentum, if you're not moving forward? Listen to me. The wave will pass you by. Coaching is the next big wave, no doubt about it. The research is there. But if you're not already moving, that wave will pass you by. What if you get too far in front of a wave? What if you get way out there and the wave's over here and it's a big wave? Then that wave will come and it will squash you. And so that's why you have to have a coach in your own life, somebody who can come alongside and add value. There are people who've said, you know, Dwight, I want to get on Dr. Phil's show. That's going to be my big thing. Well, remember what I told you. There's no success fairy. Just because you're on Montel Williams or you're on Dr. Phil or you're on The View, if you're on a popular show in culture, maybe the 700 Club, maybe Dr. Dobson's Focus on the Family, does that mean that the whole world will stop? No, it's just one more show. Because there's a lot of technology out there. There's a lot of voices in the marketplace. What's going to set you apart is what we're going to focus on next. What are the three greatest weaknesses of most business professionals? There's three. Are you ready? Number one, business skills. Most professionals lack training in business. I've had an opportunity to speak at a number of different colleges and universities at the undergraduate level and the graduate level. And here's what I've seen, and here's what I've asked, as well as individuals that we hired for our counseling practice in Orlando called the LifeWorks Group. Almost always, with one exception so far, when I've said, have you had any specific training in business? You know what the answer was? Nope. When we were hiring counselors who'd come from very accredited schools, none of them had any specific skills or training in business. Three great weaknesses of professionals. And I'm not just talking about counselors. I'm talking about attorneys, doctors, dentists, chiropractors, and from many different professions. They're offered no specific training in business. That's why you're watching this. That's why you're taking notes. And that's what I'm going to teach you next, is a process that will help you to be able to heighten and sharpen your business skills. The second thing is marketing. Marketing. My friend Pat Williams is the executive vice president of the Orlando Magic. And Pat has a desk sign right in the middle of his desk. It's a beautiful thing. It says, without marketing, a terrible thing happens. Nothing. And I kind of giggle when I say that, because for many people, they're afraid to market. They're afraid to speak up. I'm going to teach you a wheel so you can identify your brand in just a moment. And the third piece is technology. Now, when I think about technology, I think of a couple things. First, with technology is this. All right, can you see that? This is a fiber optic cable. It lights up, so it gives you an idea to be able to see that the light travels at the speed of light, as you would expect. And so because of the internet, because of fiber optic cable and high-speed internet, you have to be able to understand technology. In coaching, you have to do emails. In coaching, you have to be able to keep up with your email, either through a device like a cell phone that's wireless, a BlackBerry, a Trio, but you have to be able to do emails. You have to have computer skills. That is essential. And if you say, Dwight, I'm kind of scared about the computer, and a lot of people are. If you're scared about the future, much like Marty McFly and the Back to the Future film series you may remember from Steven Spielberg, remember what happened? He went back to the future, but the license plate says out of time. If you're not willing to learn business skills, marketing skills, if you're unwilling to learn technology skills, I highly, highly doubt you will be effective or successful as a life coach, and I certainly know it will not be a financially profitable venture for you. And so let me teach you a principle, and the principle is this. You'll see on the graphic a wheel, and you see on this wheel there's three different parts. Let me explain them to you. The first part on this wheel, this is a branding wheel for you to be able to identify your place. The first part is dealing with marketing. We've talked about marketing, so let's start there. Marketing is a bridge. Would you write that down? The bottom part, the outreach. Marketing is a bridge to reach out to people. It leads into, it flows into, when you're building your brand, public relations, PR, as we abbreviate it. And public relations is about buzz. It's about getting people to talk. And that leads into sales. And sales is about budgets and dollars and numbers, percentages, metrics. All right, but this wheel is always moving. This wheel is always growing. Let me share with you some marketing tools I brought along an example of to give you an idea. Because sometimes people say, well, I'll get a brochure, I'll get a website, and then I'll be okay. Nope. No, you have to have all three. You have to have all three to be successful. But this would be a marketing. This is a marketing packet that I would give. It's exactly the one that I would give if a person called and said, I'd like to have Dwight be my coach. My assistant would talk to them for a little bit, ask them some basic questions, and then they would receive a packet. It would be shipped to them if that was their choice. It has an article that I'd written on change. It has in here a number of different products, a number of different resources, audio training programs, video training programs, as well as books that I've authored. It has some pull quotes and some information from different writers, people like Mark Victor Hansen, Steve Arterburn, John Maxwell, Pat Williams, Naomi Rohde, Steve Brown, Bob Vanderpool. These are recommendations. It has a coaching test. All right, so here's a packet of material. This is all part of this coaching media kit that I would send out. It has a one-page. It has some other marketing pieces. This talks about my background and my experience, because in coaching, your experience is everything. This talks about the results, the benefits that someone could expect, because benefits is a huge part of this process. People pay for things that are beneficial to them. And then this is something called a Vita, or what is referred to as a CV. If you're working in the legal field, in the academic field, this has a listing of all the different courses you've taken, classes you've taught, books you've authored, articles that you've written, the continuing education units that you've received, and this shows your life. This is literally your credentials, and all of this, of course, has contact information on it. Now, this is just one part. This is a marketing tool. This would be sent out, FedEx, overnight to that individual who says, Dwight, I'd be interested in having you as a coach. They wouldn't receive this if it wasn't a qualified lead, and that means A, B, or C. A C-level lead is someone who's just sort of has a question. They're never really going to become a client. They would not receive one of these. These cost a couple of dollars to put together, a couple of dollars to ship. A B-level client is somebody who's sort of interested, probably a good fit. Remember, we're screening those phone calls, and many times, most coaches that I know, including me, will do a short 5-minute to 15-minute phone consult to see if it's a good fit. Coaching has to be based on the fit. And then an A-level client. An A-level client is somebody who says, I saw you on that television show, I've been reading your books, I want you to coach me. A B person, a B-level client may receive one of these. An A-level client, they're going to get one of these with the coaching contract of expectations so that we can get started in our coaching relationship. So when we think about that wheel, remember that wheel is forever turning. Another resource that I'd recommend to you, especially if you're in the field of counseling, is Psychotherapy Finances, psyfin.org. I'm on the board of experts for this organization. They talk a lot about small business principles and talk a lot about small business success. But remember, without marketing, without public relations, you will have no sales. You will have no income. Let's look at our next principle. Is your career at one of two levels? Think of being on a boat. Is your career sailing and you're zooming along in your career, feeling pretty good, feeling pretty strong, or is your career bailing and you feel like you're sinking? Is your career thriving? If you're already having the time of your life doing what you're doing, then maybe life coaching isn't for you. You're already having a great time. But remember, 82% don't really enjoy their jobs. So is your career about sailing or bailing? Is it about thriving or just barely getting by, barely surviving? Unfortunately, a lot of people really don't like their jobs. Here's some checklists, some warning signs to pay attention to be able to tell which side you're on. Do you feel terrible frustration at work? Are you afraid to let go? Do you have no energy, no motivation to change? Are you all talk, no action? Are you living in a rut of despair? Does your life history look like a series of train wrecks? If those things in your career are happening, I think that you're ready to be coached, but I'm not sure that you're ready to be a coach. And I'll explain more about that in just a little bit, but I just want you to understand, if your life is sinking, if your career is sinking, it's not time to say, oh, I'm just going to go jump in and be a life coach. It's not that easy, and especially if you want to be successful from a business perspective. Let's look at the next principle. So how do you find your fit? How do you find where you best fit? How do you find your connection points? Here's something from Warren Bennis. He said, coaching will become the model for leaders in the future. Coaches teach, mentor, and empower. I am certain that leadership can be learned and that terrific coaches will facilitate learning. We know that every major publication in the United States, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, the Los Angeles Times, Fortune magazine, small business magazines, and we'll talk more about some of those different resources, but all of them have said coaching's the next big wave. So how do you find where you fit? Because if you don't find where you fit, if you don't find your niche, you're going to be wandering around, and sadly, you probably won't be very successful at it. So let me ask you some basic questions. You'll see them on your screen. I want you to pay attention to a couple of things. This exercise is called a kaleidoscope, and I want you to think literally in terms of like a global positioning. We're going to be locking in to look at different areas of your life journey, different areas of your life experience, to be able to find the core. When you find the core, you found your niche. Are you ready? Here we go. Question number one, or principle number one. I want you to pay attention to your design, your natural talent, your ability, the things that people say you're basically good at. Principle number two, work that is highly interesting to you, work that you never get bored at. You wouldn't care if you got paid or not, you're having the time of your life when you do it. That's the second area that we're paying attention to. Principle number three, work that is important or valuable to you. These are the issues or the causes that you care deeply about. These are the things that would wake you up in the middle of the night and say, someone has to do something, and it may be that you're that someone. The next principle, areas that you're highly skilled or experienced in. Been there, done that, and done it well. Remember, we're thinking just like global positioning. And you know GPS works off of getting a satellite, and you get the reading from each of those satellites, and it says, here's exactly where you are. All right, we're halfway through the list. Let's look at the next principle. Areas that you're educated or credentialed in. Where do you have degrees, credentials, license, certifications? That's only one track. That's only one piece of all of these different 8 factors. The next principle I want you to pay attention to is your current career development plan. What books are you reading? What training sessions are you going to? Who are your mentors? Who do you study? Who are you passionate about? Who are your heroes out there? Those are the people that very well may be a role model for you to be able to move forward, and that's going to give you some insight into the type of coach and the type of niche industry that you're going to be the best fit for. The next principle is marketplace and industry options that are available. This would deal with some basic things like location. If you live in Anchorage, Alaska, and you're going to be coaching individuals that live in Atlanta, Georgia, Yes, technology will let you do that some, but your marketing is going to have to be pretty creative, and it's all going to have to be web-based or direct mail-based. So I want people to pay attention to some of the basics. If you just had a new baby and you're still going through the whole process of getting that baby used to a scheduled routine, God bless you. God loves babies. I love babies. Babies are great. But that time of life, that season in life may not be the best fit, and that's what we're looking for on that 7th part of this kaleidoscope. The 8th part, the final part, groups or industries already looking for people with your background to improve the strength and depth of their team, particularly networking organizations. Now, when you take all 8 of those categories, boom, 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 boom. What do we have now? We have a kaleidoscope. And then when I'm coaching someone, and this is a coaching exercise, I want you to sit down with a legal pad, stop this program, and sit down and really figure this out, because I want you to come right to the middle to say, what is your core? What are you about? What were you designed for? What were you born for? When I walk through this exercise with coaching clients, this is a lot of fun. Because we're able to say to someone who maybe feels very stuck in their career, we're able to come alongside and say, you know what? Here we are. Look at all these different pieces of the life journey that God has given you. There's some really cool things that you can do. There's some amazing things that you can do. And once we take all of those, then we walk them down in a series of steps until we get to the core, the very thing that you are the best skilled at, and that's what I want you to build on. That's what we would refer to if we called that niche marketing, positioning in the marketplace. That's the area that you're probably going to be the most successful because it's the best fit. Let's take a look at the next principle. How many different types of coaches are out there? You know, I've talked a lot about this, but still, every one of the colors of that rubber band represents a different type of coach. There's executive coaches, nutritional coaches, fitness coaches, financial coaches, public speaking coaches, media coaches, marriage coaches, parenting coaches, spiritual coaches, time management coaches, adult ADD coaches, life transition coaches, real estate coaches, travel coaches, performance coaches, success coaches, small business coaches, athletic coaches, custody and mediation coaches. Muhammad Ali had a coach. Here's what Ali said later in his life. He said, "The man who views his life at 50 the same he did at 20 has wasted 30 years of his life." There's a lot of different coaches. Every major athlete, every major movie star has someone who comes alongside. But you know what? My question for you right now, as you're training to be a coach, is who is your coach? Who have been that coach to come alongside? So how many different types? There's many different types as there are colors on that rubber band ball. There's room for you. There's room for the type of coaching that you do. I want to encourage you. I want to challenge you. There's room for you in coaching if you know where you fit. Now, if you don't know what you do best, there's no way in the world you can find the people that you would be best at to coach. In fact, you would be better at to coach than I would be because of your life journey, because of your life experiences. So when I think about these principles, it leads into the following. How do you know when you're ready? How do you know when you're ready? That's an important question. The basic principle that I want you to understand first is this, that you're healthy. That your life is well, your life is balanced. In one of the books that I wrote, there's a profile to allow a person in 2 minutes or less to be able to see if their life is in balance. They literally score themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 in the areas of finances, physical, emotional, spiritual, relational, in managing their time and organizational abilities, in recreation and fun, their closest relationships. And literally, in just a couple of minutes, a person can walk through and see, is my life balanced? That's how you know you're ready. Your life is balanced. You're a healthy individual. You're at a place of wellness and stability in your life. You're not in a chaotic place. If you're in a chaotic place, go get some help. Get your life stable. That's how you know you're ready. I explain it this way. Maybe it's kind of an acrostic, and it has a flow to it. But this seems to help a lot of people. And it's the idea of looking at life as a student, a teacher, and a master teacher. Got it? A student, a teacher, and a master teacher. The student is about education. It may be that you're at a student level in your career as a life coach. A teacher is about equipping. They've already gained the skills, the talents, and the abilities to equip other people. But remember, even though I love teachers, and I guess at my heart I probably am a student. I love to learn. But a teacher is equipping those students. But watch this. A master teacher, that's an expert. And if you're an expert in your industry, when we think about in your part of the world, if you're the go-to guy, if you're the go-to gal, Here's how it works. The higher you are on that continuum, the better you'll be paid. The higher your fees will be because you're the most skilled. You are an expert. And experts write books. Experts are out there. Experts are doing a lot of things to add value to their particular niche in the marketplace. Next principle. What is the primary responsibility of the coach? Man, I've been looking forward to sharing this one with you. The primary responsibility of the coach, again a quote from Warren Bennis. He said, whatever shapes the future, or whoever shapes the future, the men and the women who guide organizations will be different leaders than the ones that we've been used to. They will be the maestros, not the masters, the coaches, not the commanders. Because a coach comes alongside and they guide that coaching client to where that coaching client wants to be. But let me show you. One of the principles, and it's from a brand new book called Read for Your Life by my friend Pat Williams. And here's what Pat says, because I believe that your number one responsibility to be an effective and successful coach, all right, here's the principle. And Pat talks about it. And that principle is reading. Reading. Readers are leaders. If there's one thing that's probably helped me more than anything else, it's that I'm constantly trying to read and learn and stretch and grow. So when we think about, what responsibilities do you have, it is to be the sharpest saw that you can be. But here's what Pat says. The average American reads less than one book per year. Now watch this. If you read one book per week, you would finish at least 50 books a year. As it happens, earning a PhD from a major university requires the reading and the synthesis into a dissertation of about 40 to 50 books. So, if you were to read just one book, 50 books a year, you would be getting the equivalent of a practical PhD in your field every single year. If you continued reading at this level, 50 books per year, you would read 500 books in the next 10 years. If you were to read 500 books in your field in a world where the average person reads less than one book a year, do you think you'd have an edge? Do you think you'd be a better competitor? You think, I would add to what Pat wrote, you think you'd be a better coach? Pat says you must discipline yourself to leave the television off, the radio off, put the newspaper aside, and rise a little earlier in the morning so you can invest in your mind. This investment will give you one of the highest payoffs in terms of results, rewards, and satisfaction that you'll ever enjoy from anything that you do. The average person spends 500 to 1,000 hours each year in their car. That's the equivalent to 3 to 6 months of 40-hour weeks, or the equivalent of 1 or 2 university semesters. So people say, I don't have time to read. You can get it on audio. Read for Your Life by Pat Williams. Highly recommend this book to you because one of the principles that I've seen that you have to be responsible for, you have to be a reader. Let me show you some of the things that I read. First, some books, some titles, and I always start with this one, Now Discover Your Strengths. When I'm working with a coaching client, this was written by Marcus Buckingham. When I'm working with a coaching client, I have them take the Strength Finder profile. You can find out more, Now Discover Your Strengths. If they're a Christian leader, I want them to read John Ortberg's book. If you want to walk on the water, you've got to get out of the boat. Wonderful book about overcoming fears, and that's a great deal of what a coach does. We come alongside, we help somebody break out of that mold, we help somebody shatter their fears to get past the glass ceiling in their life to truly accomplish what they want to do. My friend Tim Sanders wrote Love is the Killer App, and his newer book, The Likability Factor. People who are in business, people who say, I just don't know where I fit in, I'm kind of shy, I'm kind of afraid, I don't know how to connect. I love that book. I love the principles that Tim Sanders talks about. Tim was the creative vice president at Yahoo for many years, and now as a writer, he shares those ideas. How Full is Your Bucket by Tom Rath and Donald Clifton. How Full is Your Bucket talks about, and there's over 101 medical footnotes that show the power of your mind and the power of positive psychology. And when we talk about those principles, they've got the clinical research from Harvard, from Johns Hopkins, from a number of places that show that if you put good stuff in, not only do you get good stuff out in terms of you're a better thinker, your health improves, and your health improves dramatically. Sometimes I'll read a book like this one by Mitch Albom, For One More Day, that looks at the principle. He also wrote Tuesdays with Morrie. It looks at the whole idea of caregivers, and maybe if you're going to be coaching individuals who are dealing with life or death situations, that type of book might be helpful. Good to Great by Jim Collins. Incredible resource. Good to Great helps organizations to be their best. Jim is a passionate researcher, clinical PhD, and his passion is to help organizations rise to the occasion. People who are in small business, I always have them read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. E-Myth talks about how to position your small business as a business so that it can be profitable. My friend John Maxwell, John's written over 40 books. You can go to MaximumImpact.com, MaximumImpact.com, and you can get a number of excerpts from John's best-selling books, this one called Thinking for a Change, because I want to challenge my thinking so that I can be a better coach for the clients that I serve. The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, his newer book is called Blink, talks about change, and change is one of the number one subjects that I focus on as a communicator. I want to help people to be their best. Now, those are books I read, but it doesn't just stop with books. It goes to magazines. Number one magazine every single month that I read, Oprah. Why? She has the resources to hire the best writers. Psychology Today, here's an article, cover story on how to reinvent yourself, which shows that coaching is a growing industry. Here's another popular magazine. It's called More. On the cover is Diane Keaton, showing that individuals, baby boomers like me, people that basically would be middle 40s to in their middle 60s, these individuals are ready and sometimes have the resources to really be able to go out and to experience a better quality of life. Many times, they're going to be the best person or the best age group for you to focus on as you position your marketing. It's been my experience. College students sometimes think they know it all. But you know what? Somebody in the middle years of life, they very well may be ready for coaching. These popular magazines show that. Here's a Psychology Today also talking about the X factor in success and the trend of coaching. USA Today newspaper, it's a national newspaper. I spend a lot of time, especially because I work with business, I'm reading the money section of that. Always reading the money section, the local section of my local newspaper for the small business clients in my region of the country, and I would hope that you'd be doing the same too. You say, Dwight, I don't have time to do that. Yes, you do. You can go to your local newspaper, you can get it online, or you can do this. It's a neat coaching trick. You can go to Google.com and you can have a search feature. It's absolutely free, and Google will look up the stories for you from these magazines. If you don't have the money to buy the magazines, don't buy the magazine. I like to read. So I subscribe to a lot of these. Here's Fortune, cover story about the popularity of MySpace, the popularity of Facebook, the popularity of YouTube. The internet is here. It's changing the way that we live. And so Fortune magazine, Fast Company, always love that one. I save my Fast Companies. I quote from them all the time. This is Success Magazine, which has been around for many years, talking about success in the marketplace, success in your personal life, success in your private life. I read Media Week because I study media, and that's an inside trade journal of the media industry. This is Business Week, specifically their small business, because I specialize in working with small business. Time Magazine had a cover story about the changing face of America. The average American right now is very young. And there's a lot of things changing. So if you're not in that very young group and you're afraid of technology, most local libraries will teach you how to use a computer for free. Don't be afraid of technology. I want you to embrace technology, but Time Magazine is one of the resources. Business 2.0, probably the best business magazine out there. But between Business 2.0, between Forbes magazine, between Business Week magazine, you can literally put your finger on the pulse of what's happening in your particular industry. Now remember, Google.com, search feature, type in your keywords. If you're a life coach on wellness, you just have to type in wellness and tell Google, I want you to tell me anytime a newspaper, a magazine, a television station, a radio station, anytime they do a story on this, I want you to tell me. Google will tell you every 15 minutes. It'll tell you once a day. It'll tell you once a week. But I want you learning, because you have a responsibility when you're coaching people to be the best that you can be. Not to be the best in the world, but to be the best that you can be. I saved this one for last, my favorite. You see the lapel pin? A National Speakers Association. There are 22,000 different trade associations in the United States. The American Association of Christian Counselors is a professional association. NSA is the top professional platform speakers in the world. And I spend a lot of time at their website, a lot of time with their magazine, a lot of time with their CD, their podcast, their VCast, because I want to be learning from the best people in my professional trade association. So what responsibility do you have? You have a responsibility to learn. You have a responsibility to be a lifelong learner. Let's take a look at the next point. How important is certification? It's huge, because it's about trust, integrity, ethics, character. It really ties into the last point. You have a responsibility to be the best you can be, and part of that is to be able to say to people in the marketplace, I am a credible individual. I'm a person who's learning. I'm a person who's growing. And as you can see, I read a lot, but I want you to start writing. The most powerful title that you can have is the word author. It's not doctor. It's not PhD. It's not attorney. It's not JD. It's not pastor. The most powerful title in the United States, the one that's the most respected, the one that people will pay the most attention to, the one that will get you booked on any one of those 13,000 radio stations that tomorrow have to have stories, over 20,000 newspapers that tomorrow have to have stories. and tens of thousands of television stations and websites that tomorrow have to have stories. The biggest thing that will get you booked is the word expert, master teacher. How do you do that? You read a lot, and then I want you to start writing. I want you to start blogging. I want you to start developing your skills. I want your name to be out there so those little spiders crawling across the World Wide Web can find you as a life coach in your subspecialty, in your niche. There's a whole strategy to that I'll probably talk about more at a later date, but I want to get you excited about learning, and remember that principle. Part of that is certification. Now, I've got a lot of experience, 30 years as a platform communicator. If you have a lot of experience, we're going to be building on your experience to reach the next level of success. If you don't have a lot of experience, then what do? We go back and we get a lot of education. We get a lot of education so we can equip other people, because experts are highly skilled, experts are highly, highly experienced. I want you to see it like this. Because you're saying, Dwight, this is starting to sound like a whole lot of work. Yeah, it is. I want you to do portfolio working. Now, what this means is don't quit your day job until you have reached a place that you're being paid. Let's say that you made the average income in the United States $50,000. All right, so here's $50,000. If the average income that you made was $50,000 and your coaching career the first year you make $2,000, you're just going to be doing this part-time. You're going to be doing what I call portfolio work. You're maybe going to get paid a little bit for this, a little bit for that, but maybe you're going to get paid a little bit for a book that you wrote. And I challenge you about that, because experts are trusted authors in their field. And if you don't want to write a book, then maybe it'll be through blogging, maybe it'll be through the internet. But remember, portfolio work says that you get a little bit of money maybe from a seminar that you taught at a local church, maybe at a hospital. And a lot of what I'm doing when I'm helping a person in small business is I'm helping them put the pieces of that portfolio, their financial portfolio, together. Just like a financial portfolio, we're putting pieces of the puzzle together for them. Got it? Good. Let's move on to the next piece, because until you're able to put that portfolio together, I do not want you to quit your day job. And when I think about this idea of portfolio working, let me give you, and you'll see it on your screen, a number of different principles that will help you in your business. I want you to have a marketing plan, a personal plan. I want you to have a networking plan. I want you to have a website, internet plan, a partnership plan where you come alongside other organizations and strategic alliances. I want you to have a USP, that's a unique selling proposition. I want you to have a business plan, a financial plan. I want you to have a credentialing plan, your continuing education plan, a staffing plan. And that staffing plan for most of us is an outsourced staffing. That's who's going to help you with your accounting, your taxes, your printing, your health insurance, your disability insurance. Who's going to help you with legal counsel? Who's going to help you with benefits like 401ks or IRAs? Who's going to help you with an answering service? Who's going to be your on-call coverage so that while you're on vacation, you're not missing coaching clients? You say, that's a lot of business stuff, isn't it? But you know what? Did you notice there's a plan in each of those areas? Because this is how you're able to position yourself in the marketplace, because you've got a plan in each of these areas. There are a number of different websites you can Google on any of those that will help you if you say, I'm not sure how to set up a business plan. Then go to your local Borders, B. Dalton's, Books A Million. Go read about it, research it, get some help, or there's a shorter path, go get a life coach. Get an expert in that area, and they're going to cut years off of your learning curve to be able to move forward and grow to the next level of professional success. What specific skills are necessary to be successful? Again, look at on the information on your screen. There's some leadership skills. Number one is trust and integrity. Visionary, continual self-improvement, putting people first. You're a hard worker, a good communicator. You're a great role model. You're accountable, responsible. You're a networker. You're a lifelong learner. So you've got a lot of leadership skills. And then it shifts over to people skills. You're persistent. You've got good supports around you. You've got healthy, good self-esteem. You've got written goals. You learn from failure. You have a positive mental attitude. You desire the best in other people. Remember, coaching is about them. It's not about you. You motivate other individuals. You appreciate other people. You give them credit. You give them praise. You know, I'm pretty hard on people sometimes, because part of coaching is accountability. But don't let me miss. Part of coaching is praise. Part of coaching is saying, attaboy, way to go, you did it. But it was because you accomplished the goals that we set out to accomplish. Don't you love to watch championship teams when they win, and they win big? You know, people are dumping Gatorade coolers on everybody else, and they're yelling, and they're cheering, and they're shouting. You know why? Because they won. Why did they win? Because they had a coach who is able to mobilize a team or an individual to reach the next level of success. You will win when you're able to have a coach in your life and when you're following these principles and those people skills. Some key questions to tell, again, back on the screen. Do you work well with other people? Do you take responsibility for your actions? Do you understand your industry as well as your job? Do you understand and focus on your core business? Do you have a marketable skill that you can sell? Do you use your gifts and talents wisely? And I would also say, do you have forever in mind when you're coaching other people? Because I believe that we're accountable to God to be able to reach out and to be able to help other individuals. What are the benefits to building a coaching practice? Well, the benefits, if you have the right fit, it's fulfilling to you, it's fulfilling to the client. What are the benefits? It's fun. You'll have the time of your life. It's fun for you, it's fun for your clients. What are the benefits? There's financial benefits, but I put that one last. There's financial benefits for you, there's financial benefits for the client because you're helping them past a roadblock in their life. Now let's wrap this up. Because we've talked about all the benefits, we've talked about the exciting things, so I'd be amiss if I didn't say what are the drawbacks. Number one, coaching is not for everybody. If the things that I've been talking about are very scary to you and you're not sure, don't start it until you know that you've got the confidence to grow. It's a lot harder than it looks. Coaching's about results. It's more about listening than talking. It's rarely about giving advice, but there is a lot of direction. There's a lot of guidance because our goal is to be able to reach the potential that's inside that individual and bring that out. It takes a period of time to develop leads and referrals, and that's why we don't quit our day job. For most people, it's going to take a couple of years to build a full-time coaching practice. There are elements of control since it's client-driven. It can be a slow process. It can require a whole lot of patience. Basically, it works like this. If you've got to fake it, if you've got to pretend to be a life coach, and you say, I know how to do this stuff, I know how to do this stuff, but you know what? If in real life you don't, then you're not ready yet. That's not a reflection that's anything bad about you. It just means that you're not ready yet. You need to keep growing. I would say it this way. Get rid of some of the anchors in your life. Make sure that you're at that place of healthy wellness, and there's three key principles. The first part in being a life coach and being someone who's really successful in business that I want you to pay attention to, the first part is about knowing. It's about studying and learning, and that's actually 50%. The second part is about doing. Doing is about confidence. You get confidence by doing things, not talking about it. So if I take knowing, and that's the educational piece, learning, studying, growing, that's half. And if I take doing, that's getting out there and trying it. That's getting out there and building some life skills, some life experience. If I merge those together, 50%, 50%, you know what happens? Being. Knowing and doing leads to being. Or like my favorite quote, one man awake can awaken another, and the second can awaken their next door brother, and the three awake can awaken the town by turning the whole place upside down, and the many awake can make such a fuss that they finally awaken the rest of us. One man up with dawn in his eyes multiplies. I've been talking to you about how to get results because coaching is about results. But I've been talking to you to challenge you, to stretch, to use these principles, to keep growing so that you can reach that state of being the man or the woman that God designed you to be, the life coach that God designed you to be. I believe you can do it. Now the question